d'Ivoire has an export revenue of about $8 billion every year coming into their economy, and it is fixing their balance of trade. $8 billion. Cocoa alone is contributing $6 billion, twice what we get in total from all of our agriculture. In terms of fruits, and I love to talk about mango, because when I left corporate, barely a year later, I sold mangoes and made $1 million. I don't want to talk about it. I've just checked. There's nobody from my village here so I'm sure I'm safe. But I quietly made $1 million by selling mangoes from 100 acres. So who says agriculture is not profitable? I said, wow. Never saw. Of course, I saw much more than that when I was heading corporate. But it wasn't my money. But this was my money. So, whereas La Côte d'Ivoire sells up to $1 billion of mangoes every year, Ghana sells just around $60 million. Don't get me wrong. So we have, I see some of these gaps as opportunities. All right? Let's go on. And I'm saying that the agribusiness opportunities are global. Again, I'd like to stress and emphasize, I don't want to sound too theoretical, so I want to talk about real figures. The global size of mangoes, for example, is around $70 billion every year. Cocoa, I'm told, is a little over 30, maybe 40 billion. But you know how much we sell? We export only 60 million. So you can't even check how much we sell. The rest is opportunities. Some of the countries in the typical mango zones, Costa Rica, Peru, Brazil, and all that, are at the mercy of global warming. So they are all hurting. So you have buyers in Europe flocking to Africa. And countries like La Côte d'Ivoire, even Mali, even Burkina Faso are making inroads. But because of some of the issues we have within our agricultural value chain, we are not able to take advantage. If you want to throw in cashew, the global size of the cashew business is quite big. It totals about $10 billion. But we are selling less than $300,000 of cashew, in spite of all the noise you hear from Tree Crops Authority and cashew and all of that. All right? So just sort of putting everything within the right context. Let me quickly talk about jobs. We are all aware of youth unemployment. People leave school, they can't get jobs. People are yearning for jobs. Unfortunately, they are not attracted into agriculture. And even when they get attracted into agriculture, they have other intentions, either to steal, cheat, and break your farm, or they just want to be delinquent. Well, we need to find, maybe we need some national mobilization schemes to conscientize the youth. Maybe they need success stories told by people to tell them that you are not a failure if you are into agriculture. But it's a fact that agriculture provides jobs, incomes, and livelihoods. The other sad bit about jobs is that wherever our farms are, we are losing precious labor into Galamsey. So we talk about poisoning our rivers and our streams and all of that. What most people are not talking about is the fact that there's an outflow of labor into Galamsey because they make probably twice what the average farmer can afford to pay. So that's a big issue. So we may want to quickly move on and ask why we are where we are. Let me pause briefly and have some water. Sorry. So what security through emergency preparedness? Now later I'll demonstrate how we don't even have the capacity when we have oversupply of agricultural produce. Because our buffer stocking system, no matter what you say, our so-called commodity exchange system are not quite up to scratch. This same plan or policy is planned to ensure food security. It's planned to ensure increased competitiveness and market access for both domestic and exports. One of the reasons why we are doing so little in exports is that we are not competitive, because the export business deals with quality and standards. So we are not there, even though it's in the policy. It plans to ensure increased competitiveness and ensure sustainability of land management. It plans to focus on science and technology in agriculture. It's also meant to ensure enhanced institutional coordination by strengthening collaboration. And later, we'll talk about all this issue about not doing things holistically, is that there's so much silo sitting, people sitting in silos, not collaborating. If you want to export a ton of mangoes, you probably need approvals from 6 different offices. It's as if they don't want you to export. EPA and GSA, at some stage they say you should even belong to the Nkransa Mango Farmers Association. I don't know what that has to do with Marks and Spencer wanting to buy my fruits in London. So we place barriers unnecessarily, and there's a lot of duplication. The same FASDEF says it is planned to promote access to technology inputs. It's also planned to promote access to finance, irrigation, and markets. Planned to develop infrastructure such as roads. Planned to emphasize the role of the private sector. And then finally, to forge initiatives to support women in agriculture. So probably my fellow panelist, Sheila, when she has her turn, will confirm whether there are any targeted agricultural programs geared at empowering women. So basically, it covers all the touch points. Now, if you look at a value chain, every point you touch which triggers reaction is an important touch point. And there are probably about 6 or 7 touch points. These things more than cover them. So why are we where we are? Because others will take their turn, I don't want to take too much time. But at the moment, I can always say that the approach has often been fragmentary, incomplete, and sometimes short-term. Now, African heads of states met in Malabo. Malabo is what? Is it Mozambique? Where? Equatorial Guinea. In 2014, and they signed up to a commitment that they would target programs at agriculture. Now, you can't do anything without appropriate financing. So what heads of states, including our heads of states at the time, signed up to this commitment to give 6% of the national budget or allocate it to agriculture. Today, when you look at the budget statement, $1.5 billion is allocated to agriculture, and that is 0.54%, not 6%. Okay, so it shows whether we really take this sector serious or not. All right? It's not even 1%. Meanwhile, we signed up. Other countries are practicing, like Cote d'Ivoire, Zambia, and they are getting the results. Let me mention another aspect, a live example. In 2021, on the back of Planting for Food and Jobs, you can say anything against it, but at least it improved inputs supplied to farmers, enhanced seeds and seedlings, fertilizer at subsidized prices. I was doing 50 acres of maize. I did 120 acres of maize because I bought fertilizer at about 60% of the original cost. So it boosted production. And whereas we were doing 1,700,000 metric tons of maize, suddenly in 2021, it jumped to 3 million metric tons of maize. That's success. But the success turned out, we became victims of that success. Because what that did was that there was an oversupply and there was not adequate buffer stock system. There is a warehouse that I know pretty close to my farm, zone that produces 60,000 metric tons of corn. About 40,000 cannot be bought immediately. But the warehouse there, I don't want to mention it because this is not a political platform. But that warehouse only can contain 1 metric ton of corn. All right? So you begin to wonder. And nobody sent any corn there anyway. So, and when the farmer couldn't sell the corn, I saw farmers abandoning their maize and boarding the last village bus and leaving. Very frustrating. Okay? Now, we in Ghana, statistics shows that we consume a little over 2 million metric tons. So when we produced 3 million metric tons, there was a surplus. We're not ready to take up this surplus. So speculators from La Côte d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, and Niger came down and bought the corn at very low prices. Then COVID came in, 2020, disrupted agricultural value chains, fertilizer we couldn't get. Then suddenly we said we are looking for maize from Ukraine and all that. Then the Burkinabes and the Nigerians sold the corn back to us at double price. So we imported. This is the sector we are talking about. Now, let me just chip this in that this has not changed. This happened in 2021, it's not changed. I came in from Kransa 2 days ago, and before I left, I tested the market. A bag of corn, which was selling for 1,100 Ghana cedis, 140 kg. I sold it for 500 Ghana cedis because there's a surplus and there's a glut. And nobody has an answer to it. Very soon, poultry farmers will start crying that they cannot get feed. But it's as if we are watching. I sold it, so I can say confidently, if anybody wants to deal in corn business and you have a warehouse, that's a bonanza for you. The price has dropped by more than 50% as we speak. And policymakers and other agents are watching. Maybe they will do something a bit about it. 40% of all the mangoes we produce in this country rots. Simple as that. It differs. In some areas, 20%. In some areas, 50%. Simply because the domestic market, Blue Skies, HPW, and others, they are processing just about 30% of the mangoes that are produced. There's a big demand for mangoes. I went to 3 trade fairs in the last 3 years, and I have 12 European buyers who want to buy mangoes. But I'm not able to sell anything, which prompted Marks and Spencer to send 2 of their procurement people to my farm to check whether I have a farm. They came and found a farm, and they said, we want to place the order now. How many can you sell? Now, I have to go through certification. I need that. I need to be a member of the Nkransa Mango Farmers Association. I need to, the hurdles, okay? As I speak, I haven't, but God willing, this year, I will export. And already, just to let you know that there are opportunities. It's not a doom sector. The World Bank, together with TVET, are taking electricity to my farm, and they are on the verge of building a pack house on my farm. So we can mop up. And it's as a result of some of the resilience that some of us have. Okay? So as a consequence of all of this, our exports have become one-legged, if you like. It's mostly gold and oil, and then a few of the other things. So whereas La Côte d'Ivoire is exporting so much, we are not able to export so much. And even when we export agricultural produce, 70% of everything we export, including cocoa, is primary export. Value is not added. So the value, including job creation, is offshore, not here. We need solutions. Now, very briefly, for a minute, Zambia has a holistic system. What they do is that at the beginning of every farming region, like we do in corporate, I worked in Cadbury. What were we selling? We were selling toffees and cups of cocoa chocolate drink. But Everything was demand-led. You don't plan and produce what you cannot sell. Simple as that. And if you commit to that, then you better sell. Before I left Cadbury was selling around $100 million of candies. You can't believe it. In West Africa. Candies and cocoa. So it tells a story. But Zambia has a model which is all-inclusive. So at the beginning of every year, they bring all the stakeholders to one desk, a room like this, and they keep asking, okay, we have this demand. What can you produce? You guys are farmers, agro dealers. This is the agro input implication. This, that. At the end of the meeting, everybody walks away with one set of numbers. And definitely, when it doesn't happen, they quickly come back to the plan and try and make changes. So when they've identified the demand, they add the strategic volumes to it for food security. Now, let me just move on and try and talk about a few of the suggestions that I have in mind as a farmer. And I'm thinking that whatever our issues, by all means, we need to ensure that we plan. But when we plan, we must implement. And when we implement, we must measure. And when we measure and there are consequences of non-performance, we need to sanction. It is only in this country that people have jobs forever. All right? The worst they will do to you is to send you to a village near my farm as punishment. That's it. You go on transfer, but they must change. So we are advocating for a through-the-line approach and scaling up of our efforts. So, to make meaningful progress, let me run through this quickly. Implement every planned strategy timely. Bridge the gap between intentions, which are the plans, and outcomes. Now there's a big gap between intentions and what we get. Strengthen accountability. Consequence management. Foster greater collaboration. Tailor your policies to unique context of the diverse agricultural zones. So there are specific things that we need to do. And I just want to talk quickly through them because I'm sure that my colleagues will pick some of these areas and talk about them in detail. So the first one is forecasting and predictive system. Today, if I want to plant corn, I look up towards the east and look at the clouds and see how the clouds are moving to tell me whether it's the right time to plant corn. And often I fail. I plan. We have Meteo. When they give weather report, they are talking about floods in Accra. Okay? Not opportunities for agriculture. These things are little low-hanging fruits which must change. We need to equip agricultural actors. Research and development. You develop new plant strains, seeds. I went into seed, and I'm talking like this with passion because since I left corporate, I've played around in the agri space. I went into seed in 2021. Now, what the then administrators did to us was that they refused to pay us for 2 years. So we lost working capital, and then somebody imported seed from Botswana. Okay? It's true. 2 years they didn't pay us. We need technology. We need logistics, and it must be appropriate. Somebody wanted to take a combined harvester into an area. He bought a combined harvester before he started thinking about access, how you take that huge machine to his farm. All right? We need to explore. There's a huge market out there, if for nothing at all, for fruits. The global demand, I said, for mangoes only is 70 billion. And we are not even doing 100 million. Infrastructure, we need the roads. We need energy. And then we need the energy to be able to power even irrigation systems, telecommunication and information sharing. We need periodic reviews. Periodic. If you've had a stint in corporate, we don't wait till 12 months before they ask you, did you achieve or you didn't achieve? Every periodic period, I mean, like if it's a month or quarterly, you are reporting and everybody is looking at whether you are in line to achieve the objectives or not. And if not, then we re-strategize. We need to bring some of these on board to agriculture. Now, unfortunately, the things that I've mentioned are not options. So you cannot say where you don't want to pay attention to technology. You don't want irrigation. If you plant, it's likely to fail because rain-fed agriculture is failing everybody because global warming is real. All right? So, no options. They must all be done, except that the emphasis has to differ from one touch point to the other. And whilst we do all this, as I conclude, I said that it is in this part of the world that people get away with non-performance. The philosophy of consequence management must kick in. It must come into our life. If not national life, it must come into the agricultural life. And it simply says that when people perform, reward them. When they perform and get their targets, recognize them. When they exceed, reward them. But when they fail, sanction them. I think a better word for sanctioning is punish them. All right? On this note, I'd like to say thank you very much to everybody for giving me a listening ear. And I wish our agriculture very well. God bless you.
Wow. Wow. Just when it was getting exciting, you just dropped the mic. Ɔdadeɛ James Boateng, round of applause for our keynote speaker. This is an Ɔdadeɛ National Dialogue Conversations under the Baobab Tree on towards a holistic approach to agriculture. We're coming to you live from EcoBank head office here in Accra, Ghana. We're streaming live on Channel 1 News and Joy News, streaming live on Ɔdadeɛ Radio and other platforms. This is a thought leadership program that we've brought together to delve into matters of national importance. This program has 3 parts. We've just finished part 1, which is the keynote by a former national best farmer, a massive farmer, James Boateng. We're not going to review everything he said, but just 2 points for those who just came in. Generally, our approach to agriculture has been fragmented, incomplete, and short-term. We need to plan, we need to implement, we need to measure, and we need to sanction. Now, the design of this program is to bring 5 discussants from 5 specific thematic areas. The first discussant is the Pro Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana. He's in charge of research, innovation, and development. He used to be in charge of ISE, which is arguably the leading research institution, academic type in the country. Professor Felix Ankuma Sante has done many things within the economics and the agri-economics field. I'll highlight 2 or 3. For example, he was a member of the Grant Review Committee of the Board for AGRA, which is the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa, probably the most important institution for agri on the continent. This he did in Kenya between 2017 and 2023. Board member also for the International Center for Evaluation Development, ICED, in Kenya. Published articles too many to mention, books too many to number. First Ghanaian to be inducted into the DAAD-sponsored African Good Governance Network. And he is the immediate past president and member of the Ghana Association of Agricultural Economists and International Association of Agricultural Economists. He is going to bring his perspectives from the economic angle. So let's welcome our first discussant, Professor Felix Ankuma Asante. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bernard. And good evening, fellow Ɔdadeɛs. I'll look at the economy and why agriculture should be taken serious in our setting. The keynote speaker talked about our contribution to the agricultural sector, which is 20% of GDP. But the debate of what agriculture is in this country is something that we have to discuss later. All the things the keynote speaker said, what we know as agriculture is a small part of it. The others cuts across manufacturing and services. But as a country, we just focus on production and we call it agriculture. We'll come to that that sector very soon. So certainly, agriculture plays a pivotal role in the economic growth. Certainly, it helps reduce poverty and addresses food security issues. So let's take inflation. Inflation, the consumer price index, that basket that contains food items and non-food items. You notice that anytime the food inflation is high, the inflation of the country is high. So in effect, if we're able to reduce the food inflation in the country will go down. And what causes the food inflation? It is the price of the commodities. So Senior Boate talked about glut. So certainly, when there's a glut, we expect that prices will go down, food inflation will go down, and then the inflation of the country will go down. So this is very, very artificial, meaning that the price is not stable. So if you take, for instance, June 2025, inflation is 13.7%. Food inflation is 16.3%. Remember, we are in the harvesting period, so we expect that. Can we manage this throughout the whole year? And that is a question that we need to talk about. When it gets to December, you see the food inflation going so up, and then inflation in the country also goes up. So if, as an agrarian economy, we need to prioritize agriculture, because virtual agriculture drives what our macroeconomic indicators are, which mainly it's inflation, the inflation, which drives interest rates, drives virtually everything. So we can work on food inflation if we take agriculture serious. I would like to look at agriculture, the food systems approach, where we talk about production from the farm to the consumption, which is to the table. We are in a country where, when we talk about the consumption, we don't even talk about the nutritive part. We have a whole Ministry of Health that is supposed to advise on the nutritive value. But agricultural production is not linked to what the Ministry of Health is doing. The nutrition unit or department is under Ministry of Health. So you see one disconnect. So if we are talking about the food systems approach, where we are looking at from the farm to the consumption, where Senior Boats talked about, then there's a problem in the country. The nutritive part is not considered. And we are talking about food security. So a holistic approach in agriculture should encompass all the related sectors in the value chain. And here, I'm talking about sectors that we talk about from the farm to the table. So we are talking about production, processing, transportation, and consumption. Now, the typical agriculture we know in this country is the production. The processing that we are talking about, when you look in our data, it's under manufacturing. When you talk about transport, it's under services. So what is agriculture definition in our country? Where do we want to move in terms of agriculture? Until we help address this challenge, we will continue having the problem that agriculture is not performing. Agriculture is the only sector in the economy that touches on everything in this country. Agriculture touches on energy, agriculture touches on health, agriculture, you touch on transportation, you touch on everything. But we are in a country where we have a Ministry for Agriculture that is disconnected from the other 15, 16 ministries. Now the issue is how do they speak together? And that is a challenge. If we want to make a headway in agriculture, and I strongly believe that agriculture should drive the economy. And if agriculture should drive the economy, then we have to redefine what we want. What are our priorities? Do we want our production to come to our tables in the home? Do we want the production to feed export? Do we want the production to do what? And this is a discussion that we should have as a country in the area of policy. If not, the 80% smallholder farmers who are operating on the average 2 hectares, they are the people feeding us. If we're able to convince all those farmers that don't go into maize farming, then means we are going to stay without food. And that is the type of country that we are in. Cocoa is being produced by individual household decision. if cocoa farmers decide to sell all their cocoa for galamsey how do you call it in Western region, for rubber, then there's no cocoa in this country. We are in a country where the decision to farm is an individual decision. State has nothing to do with it. Do we want to go in that direction? And it's something that we need to also talk about. So this underscores the critical need for investment in agricultural research, infrastructure, extension services to unlock the sector's transformative potential. In 2002, we had one extension officer to 1,500 farmers. In 2022-2023, we have one extension officer to almost 3,000 farmers. And a typical role of an extension agent is supposed to link the farmer, right, to what policy is doing. A typical extension agent is like an advisor to that subsistence farmer. So if we have this type of data and this type of information, then we have a very, 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 very big problem. Agricultural productivity, if we gauge it by land productivity, we will notice that our production is far, far below, less than half what is being produced in India and East Asia. We have the technology, we have the research output, we have the men and women who can transform this. So the question is, why are we not doing it? When you come to the universities, you come to a West African Center for Crop Improvement, we have all sorts of breeds of tomatoes, maize, and why is it that we are not able to move it into the system? Why is it that farmers are not able to use it? And these are issues that if we want to address agriculture holistically, we need to rethink and also look at that. Look at public investment. Do we invest in agriculture? Now, if you're looking at agriculture from the farm to the table, there's transport, so there's road. I haven't heard any road construction being done or planned to be done because of agriculture. Okay. Public investment in agriculture is virtually zero. Okay. We want to see a case where we decide that we are doing public investment, agriculture is our priority, and we look at the value chain. We look at public investment into processing, public investment into the transportation sector, public investment into the consumption. Virtually, there's no standards in this country. We just eat whatever we want. So how can we export? We go to the farm, you see the base, depending on your purchasing power, you get a value. If there are molds and you don't have money, they will sell it to you. If you are inquisitive like me and you complain, it means you are not going to buy it. We don't have any standards. But virtually, agriculture is what is driving the nation. So, colleagues, I'll pause here with some of these key important comments on how agriculture influences the economy. And I'm hoping that when it gets to discussions, we'll try and find solutions to some of these issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ɔdadeɛ, Professor Felix Ankuma Sante, an agricultural economist, highlighting productivity, public investment, standard, etc. Our next speaker is a scientist and a researcher, Ɔdadeɛ, Dr. Ernest Esasi. I'll do a couple of quick comments about him. West Africa Regional Coordinator, Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation, TAT, and also IITA. And he is a scientist, BSc in Crop Science, UG, MSc Seed Science, Mississippi, PhD Seed Physiology, Aberdeen, CSIR. Just said, the guy is just too much. Chief Research Scientist, he's done the whole shebang. He's going to bring us perspectives from a researcher's point of view when it comes to a holistic approach. So we have heard the farmer FMCG guy, we've heard the agri-economist, now we're going to hear the crop scientist and researcher bring his thoughts to bear on how to tie everything together. Let's welcome Dr. Ernest Asiedu with a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Mr. Facilitator. And good evening, Ɔdadeɛ fraternity. It's a privilege to be here to join today's dialogue, to share our experiences with our country, our beloved country, Ghana. I will touch on some aspects that drives the value chain and also drives research. And I would like to go on the tail end of the value chain. I'll start going to the industry and the markets, which are the drivers of agricultural development. Then during the discussion, I'll tap in more critically into the research domain. When we talk about industries and markets, there is a model which is being used by the Africa Development Bank, which I work with very closely. And it's called the Agro-Industrial Processing Zones. And that approach touches the entire value chain. And the focus is industry and the market. Because the industry and market are the segments of the value chain that pulls the entire chain. That is the locomotive of the value chain. When we talk about industry, we have like the aggregates, we have like the Nestle's, etc., etc. They need raw materials. Raw materials are at very competitive prices. You know, the world market price for maize is about $350 per ton. I was having some checks, and I saw that Ghana is about $500 per ton. The reason is that the countries where we may import maize from, and I'm telling you, the industries don't want anything. Quality standards and regulations, I think the main speaker talked about. They are so stringent. For aflatoxin, it's 5 parts per billion. If you go above that, they will not buy because of the health issues. And most of our ecologies, we are producing maize with very high levels of aflatoxin. Nestle goes to areas in the north where the maturing stage coincide with dry season, so you're able to, reduce the levels of aflatoxin because they are international and they cannot go below certain standards. So you can produce your maize. I'm using maize as an example. I look at the statistical data from the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. Maize yields is around 2 tons per hectare. Some countries like Brazil, you can get up to 6, 8, even some countries go to 10 tons per hectare. If a country is producing at 10 tons per hectare and you're producing at 2 tons per hectare, by productivity level, you're out of the market. They've outcompeted you. The second aspect of competitiveness is the quality. If the quality does not meet the international standards, industry will not buy it. So sometimes you can produce, but getting access to market, that's why we say access to market. Getting access to market means your price should be competitive. You should not put your inefficiency on your price. That's what we do in Ghana. Prices are high because we are very inefficient in production. 2 tons per hectare. Rice is 3.2 tons per hectare. Meanwhile, Egypt is producing 10 tons per hectare of rice using the Nile River. Other countries are doing very similar. You go to Mali. Mali has 1 million hectare earmarked for irrigation, and they've developed 400,000 hectares irrigation using the Niger River. And they're producing rice at least 3 cycles in a year. And what industry is looking for is consistent supply of raw material. There's a lean season. And I did a study across West and Central Africa. The lean season cut across. There are some months that industry have to lay off workers because the raw material is not just there. And so if we depend on season, we don't go for, the rains, and we don't go for irrigation, for supplementary irrigation, and we go to 2 or 3 cycles per year, the industries will get short of supply. So it is very important, and also the warehouses, to be able to store and store for a longer period to be able to feed the industry. And it also stabilizes prices of commodities. And so the tail end that is driving agricultural development needs to be well organized with regulations and standards. And that pulls the entire value chain. So, cocoa, I think the speaker talked about cocoa in Cote d'Ivoire. And when the tree crops development project was launched, I gave them advice. Please organize the learning visit to Cote d'Ivoire. Next door. Cote d'Ivoire is so well developed in tree crops, plantation crops. You are driving through miles and miles and miles and miles of plantations. If it is oil palm, miles and miles and miles. If it's banana, miles and miles and miles. If it is rubber, miles and miles and miles. Mango, go to the north, Korogo area, a lot. And the Ivorians have a say that the road to economic development is the road. And the road infrastructure, perfect. When I was living in Boaké, dual carriage from Abidjan, they are now getting to the Burkina border. Dual carriage. First class dual carriage. If it's mountain, they cut it. If it is curved, they straighten it. They don't pass through any town. There are towns, there are branch roads that go there. So the road infrastructure is perfect, and everywhere you go, roads are good. My brother came from the WHO, you know him, Kimbi, and met me and said, "Yo, is there a minister of light in this country?" I said, "No, there's no minister of light." Every little village, everywhere you go, street lights, no one bulb is off. Every corner, everywhere is glittering. So energy, and agriculture needs energy. But in organizing ourselves, there is a group that we always overlook in the tail end of the value chain, the aggregators, off-takers. There's a group that needs to be organized. They play a very, very important role. I was working as a consultant with a project in northern Ghana. SAPIP, some of you may know it, Savannah Agricultural Productivity Improvement Program. And we work with some farmers. Some of them are now out to about 1,000 hectares of maize and soybean. And the essence is to produce these commodities for the feed industry to support the poultry industry. And there's a model. They themselves are like off-takers. We call them anchor farmers. They have outgrowers. They have outgrower scheme. And one of such a farmer, who also was a national best farmer, Alhaji Mashood, has 1,300 outgrowers, that are small-scale farmers that he has anchored to. So apart from he having the technology, we train them, of course, he's transferring the technologies to these farmers. For them to get access to technology, he has machinery, so he provides mechanization services. He facilitates access to inputs, etc., to them. So the extension, which is, the previous colleague, professor, mentioned it, 1 to about 1,800. Yes, I did a similar study. It was around 1,800, 1,900. Nigeria was about 19,000. It's very high. This ratio to one farmers to one extension agent. But the issue is that the present model of extension does not work. Because in Africa, we have about 60% of the population in agriculture. And Prof, you said it, that it's not just the farming, agriculture goes beyond that. Transportations, the market women, processing, the industries, veterinary medicine, mechanization, talk about them. You can't end it. So agriculture is a very complex, and it gives opportunity. If we have about 60% of our people in agriculture, the traditional extension system, now there's an e-extension, that is using the digital tools for extension, and it facilitates extension. So that is the way that the new programs that we are managing at the level of the banks, the African Development Bank, we always support them to design their projects in all the countries. So that is the approach that they are going. But we need to organize these off-takers, their assets to us, their linkage to markets, their linkage to industry. They are people, we need to train them in regulation, standards, productivity issues. They serve also as extension agents, and they transfer technologies to small-scale farmers. They play a role that is very central. And they, in terms of marketing, they play a very critical role. And then the warehousing, which is also very important. So productivity is very important, as I said, and research works to improve productivity. If we can double maize yield from 2 tons to 4 tons per hectare, and rise from 3.2 tons to even to 5 tons per hectare, then some work that I did for ECOWAS, if the region reaches 4.0 tons per hectare, now the entire region of ECOWAS is around 2 tons per hectare. If we go 4 tons per hectare, we have reached a self-sufficiency level. Self-sufficiency in rice production. So we need to do more in research. We need to organize the value chain very well. I think the previous speakers said that. And we need to invest. The Malabo Declaration, 10% of our budget should go into agriculture. But as we heard, it's less than 1%, which shouldn't be the case. Access to agri-input, quality seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, good agricultural practices, strong extension services, and then good markets, and then industry, proper industry, and giving industry some reliefs to be able to drive the agricultural sector as a locomotive or the engine of the entire value chain. I'll end here, and when questions come, I will answer and add more to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. This is the Ɔdadeɛ Conversations on Agriculture. Put your hands together for our third speaker, who happens to be our second discussant. We're still trying to have a holistic approach. The thing about holistic is that there are many sides. And so we've heard from the agri-economist, now we heard from the crop scientist. I'm going to invite 3 people. I'm going to give each of them 2.5 minutes. You're just going to bang, 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 right? So, Sheila Cornelius, you're a farmer and an agri-business person. So just give us a couple of thoughts around what you've heard, and also how you see this holistic approach thing. Then I'll also bring in the final 2 discussants. So ladies and gentlemen, let me say 2 things about our next speaker. Ebri Girls is where she attended. She was just one of just 12 students who studied agriculture. All right? So it wasn't a very popular class, but she's persisted. She's now MD of a farm called Cornelius Farms and CEO of Lamb Naturals. So basically, production and value addition is her area. Let's welcome her to bring us some quick thoughts. Bibos Suhai, Nyamini Hene. Wonderful.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm honored to be part of this panel to discuss the holistic approach to agriculture in Ghana. I'm Sheila Cornelius. I'm a farmer, and I produce mango, vegetables, and rice. And today I'm here to talk about the importance of value addition to our farm produce. Imagine looking at my farm and 40% of my mangoes going rotten. A farmer producing cocoa, and these cocoa beans being sold to Europe. And the same Europeans pay 10 times that amount for chocolate. This is a stark reality. And this is where we know that, or we should know that, there is the need to add value to our produce. At my side, we realize that we need to add value, so we dry our mangoes. As the speaker was speaking, there is a huge demand for value-added products globally. In Ghana, we have the chance an opportunity to tap into this. Aside the economic benefits of value-added products or the dried mangoes, I think when it creates jobs and empower communities. In so doing, we eliminate poverty and then improve food security. There are success stories are global, and I'll pick on only 3 to talk, and later during discussion, I'll talk more on that. Let's take Brazil, their cashew. Brazil initially was exporting their kernel, the raw cashew, and they realized that they need to add value to it. What did they do? They build industries closer to where the farms are to cut down on transportation. And now today, 40% of global cashew kernel is coming from Brazil. Let's look at Thailand. I'm a rice farmer, so I want to talk about this. Thailand, they were also exporting their paddy rice, and it was a little margin on that. And then the state backed them with resources and development. And they realized that they need to brand their rice. And today, Thailand rice, one of their aromatic rice called the jasmine rice, in their language is called Thai Home Mali, is globally respected. Why can't we do so? We can have our Ghana cocoa, our Ghana mangoes, our Ghana pineapples. Let's come to Ethiopia. Ethiopia and avocados. Small-scale farmers were producing avocados. They were also experiencing what I was experiencing. Post-harvest losses. What did they also do? They managed to invest into minivans that were moving from farm to farm at remote places. And they were processing the avocados now into puree and then into oil. This, in within 5 years, was able to shoot their revenue to 300%. Ghana, we can also do that. What can we do? We can also invest into solar-powered vans that can move to places, because as the speaker was speaking, logistics, where some of the farms are located, is not that easy. If you come to my farms, you see where they are. But when we have mini vans that can move into the interiors, this can help us with post-harvest losses. And we can add value to our produce. I will not talk much, but I will say today, as we are here, sitting under the Baobab tree, you know the Baobab tree, its root is deep. But let's ensure that its nourishing branches produce something better for us. Thank you very much. And then one thing I want to leave for my farmers. Remember this, farmers and upcoming farmers, that your produce is gold. Don't sell it like gravels. Thank you.
Wonderful. That's why we love Abri girls. Straight to the point, hitting the bullet points. Your produce is gold. Don't sell it like gravel. Amazing. Brazil, Thailand, Ethiopia, cashew, rice, avocados. What will Ghana be known for? Thank you very much. I almost said Ɔdadeɛ, but no, you are. What is your? Is it what's a Bugis? No, Beacon is the English name. I want your. Aoga. Yeah. We're going to take 2 final discussants, and then we're going to get into a discussion. We're looking forward to hear from you as well. This is still the conversation on the Baobab tree. Ɔdadeɛ Kwame Asare Amakohene is an agric engineer, and he's also a farmer. He's done a lot of work with rice farmers in the Akuse areas, providing mechanized services to them. He's currently the MD of CTA Engineering. We've heard from an agric economist, we've heard from a crop scientist, heard from a farmer. Now let's hear from Ɔdadeɛ Kwame Asare Amakohene. Let's put our hands together for him as he brings us some quick reflections on a holistic approach towards agriculture in Ghana. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, towards the holistic approach to agriculture, and I'm going to just do something on mechanization. In fact, if we think we can do what we've been saying with hoes and cutlasses, it's not possible. We have to find a way that we have to use machines. And how to use machines, there's a way to do it. I might touch on some few points and then we go. So mechanization. What is mechanization? It's just a process where we are going to use tools, machinery, and equipment in the agri operations. So that's all we need to know about mechanization. But the aim of mechanization is to be productive, efficient, and profitable. That means that you can also have machines, using machines in a way that you are not efficient, you are not productive, and profitable. Just like Senior Boat said, somebody bought a combine harvester and he couldn't go to his farm. Because there are ways of doing mechanization. I'll mention them quickly. It's important to have equipment selection. There's a way to select equipment. Somehow in this country, we sometimes get the machinery and go and look for jobs for it. No, you have to identify the job and then look for the machines to do the job. So if that person has done his selection well, who would have seen his roads, sometimes there are bridges that your machine can go over, or there are no bridges. So if you buy a tractor, where are you taking it? Maybe it's better to use a tiller or something like that. So selection of machine is important. Training for operators and mechanics, facilities to do that. And then the most important one is the product support arrangement. Repairs, workshop, facilities, spare parts availability, and things like that. Some of these things are things that we need a mechanization policy to drive it. Because sometimes you have machinery here imported by somebody and things like that. You need to find some spare part and they tell you that it's not there. And sometimes we get machinery from, I shouldn't mention any country, but countries that are not popular with Ghanaians. So where are you going to get them from? Another important thing which really I want to hammer on is that I'm into procurement, and therefore I get inquiries from fellow farmers to buy certain things for them. And I've been getting, I think I would say, strange requests. And when you go and ask, you'll be surprised. For example, you have somebody who's bought a new tractor, he's working with it, and then he comes and tells you a stick went through his radiator. How did the stick go through your radiator? Or he's working and then his plow, this got broken. Hey, how does a plow this get broken in a farm? Or I have one that his whole iron beam for a plow, it all got bent. So I went to visit them, and I've seen this happen across a lot of farms. Our land clearing, how we have to clear our lands for farming. And it's something that we all overlook. Maybe even because in Europe and America, they did many years ago, so maybe nobody does it anymore. Land clearing is an issue. And if we don't do it properly, we will have a problem. It's just like, to bring it down to, it's like roads, having roads and your vehicle. You can go and buy a bus, nice bus, train your driver, train everything. But I tell you, if your road is bad, no matter how good your drivers are, your bus would not last. This is the same thing that happens with improper land clearing. So what is land clearing? Land clearing is, in agriculture, is aimed at eliminating and create opening space for agricultural purposes. It's just involved in the removal of trees, stumps, rocks, and other things so that machinery in agriculture, especially crop, can move freely. That is what land clearing is about. And most of the time, when we go, we see a bulldozer clearing land. The problem is that bulldozers with the blade can just push trees down. They push the trees down, and if they attempt to take the roots out, they will take off the topsoil, which we need for our work. So if you push a bulldozer to really take off your roots and things like that, you're going to have your topsoil off, and then you have to have problems trying to there are equipment and implements that have to be used for this. And I'm sorry to say I haven't seen one around. I've gone to all places. It's just a bulldozer with a... And sometimes it's a very old bulldozer somewhere, that God-forsaken bulldozer that is trying to do a work. It's very expensive for a farmer to spend 5, 6, 7,000 to clear land, and it's not done properly. Please, way forward. I think that we know, I mean, I was coming down from the Cape Coast Road one time, and I saw the company that is doing the road. I saw he has the bulldozer, he has the grader, he has excavator, he has all those things, and he's making the road. In agriculture also, land clearing is also a contract. I don't know, maybe it might not be lucrative or something like that, but we should make it, because we cannot go destroying our machines and tractors and things because we haven't cleared the land properly. It has to be, we have to find a way. We have to find a way, get contractors who will have bulldozers, tree pushers, rakes, root cutters. No, all these things are important. How government will go and do it, or private people can get in, and we show that this can work, is something that we need to discuss. There's a lot of land in this country, a lot of space to do clearing, proper clearing of land so that we can have our creek going. I would say that good roads benefit vehicles, as good land clearing promotes agriculture mechanization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ɔdadeɛ from 1983 year group, Kwame Asare-Makwene. And so far, I've made some notes. So essentially what we are hearing is cross-cutting issues. So before I bring my last speaker, it's very easy to see that everybody is concerned about productivity, right? Whether they're talking about yield per hectare, yield per acre, whether it's irrigation, mechanization, productivity is a big question here. So we'll deal with that when we do the panel. There's also a question of value addition, which is very clear from what you said. So whether you are just selling the mango raw, you're making it mango juice or whatever, value addition is a big, big subject that I have seen cut across. There's also the question of markets. So that has angles around export competitiveness, standards, and quality. So at least I've gleaned 3 major themes from what all of you have said. All right. Now, there are other matters around policy coordination and finance. So I'm hoping that my next speaker, who's a policy expert, a farmer as well, will sort of give us some highlights around those points, and then we can delve into the discussion. So let's hear Ɔdadeɛ Dr. Henry Enim Somwa, Director of Operations Agromite Limited, to bring us his quick thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. And good evening. I don't have time, so I will skip and just hit on 5 issues. Basically, a few countries have used agriculture to transform their economies. We talked about Brazil, we talked about India, we talked about what do they do that Ghana has not done. 5 elements that has shown for over 300 years from the Ottoman Empire that if you do, you can use agriculture to transform your economy. The first and the most important one is coordinated research. Unfortunately, if you look at agriculture development, coordinated research is like the brain of a human being that drives it. In Ghana, our research sits outside the agriculture body. So agriculture development in Ghana is like a human being with his brain not in his head. All right? So if you take Brazil, Embrapa is the engine for that. If you take India, the Indian Council for Agriculture, Coordinated Agricultural Research. And we have seen how those countries have performed. Our agriculture research sits in science and environment. I've been in agriculture since 1986. I've not seen one coordinated program for research in Ghana, not one. We had the World Bank supporting us. After it went, nothing. So Ghana as a country, we talk about research and our funding is paying the salary of the researcher. You can't use that to drive agriculture transformation. The second thing is credit for agriculture. All these countries from over 300 years, they start financing agriculture with a non-bank financial institution that is restricted to give credit to a certain group of people for a certain period. We call it differentiated credit. So if we look at the Brazil example, in 1970, they decided to give credit to the settler farmers. They developed 40 million hectares in the Cerrados and settled farmers there. They gave them specific credit for land development for a minimum of 11 years. You pay between 5 and 7% interest. If you take India, it's the same. If we take France, Thailand, she mentioned Thailand. All these countries, even the US. The US in 1930 did a presidential commission and said that commercial banks cannot support our agricultural development. So they came with a FCA, Farmer Credit Authority, and started supporting producer cooperatives to do that. The next thing is how we do extension. Research, finance is what drives extension. If you come and tell me a new technology as a farmer and I can't find money to buy it, what good is it? Recently, Crop Research released 12 varieties of seed for rice seed that they spoke well about it. How do farmers get it? Waki, our own Ɔdadeɛ, Professor Dankwa, has released maize varieties that can give us 7 tons. Senior said 4 tons will make us self-sufficient. You need a minimum of 6 tons per hectare in our current to make money from maize. All our maize farmers. The Ghana Living Standard says that the poorest among Ghanaians are crop farmers, not unemployed people. Because, you see, farming is a very interesting thing. The cost for farming is a U-shaped curve. Okay? So the low input end gives you a high cost. That is what you take to farm. You take to market, an average cost. Your average cost, if it's high, you go to the market, and like Senior Jimbo was saying, in today's world, 500 cedis is what? About $50. If you translate into ton, that is not cheap for maize. But because of a high average cost, it doesn't pay him much. So we need to understand that extension is driven by research and a proper finance. Not somebody coming to tell me what I need to do when I cannot do it. Right? So we take the same lessons from India and Brazil. What do they do about research? They make sure that the research target is driving productivity. India has an annual statistics to show what research is contributing to productivity for their target crops. We don't have that. The fourth thing that we have missed is that all these people have organized farmer structures in terms of groups and associations. I used to work for the Ontario Ministry for Food and Agriculture as a traceability coordinator between agriculture and industry. And I had to work with 13 producer organizations. And I bet you the understanding and the knowledge base for these farmers and their producer organization, you can't beat them. They drive policy. They tell government what to do. In Ghana, unfortunately, all our farmer groups, except SPEG, the Sea Freight Pineapple Exporters, all of us are armchair politicians, right? We come to radio to criticize government policy without making input into how that policy can drive what we need to do. And then the final thing is what we touched on. Every country that has used agriculture to create wealth, not what we do. We are trying to use agriculture to reduce poverty. And I find it difficult to understand. How can you use agriculture to reduce poverty? Poverty is like darkness. So how can you reduce darkness? I find it strange. But those that want to use agriculture to create wealth, deal with the infrastructure challenge in a very concrete manner. Basically, Ghana has water. Use the water for any transport. All across the US and everywhere in the world. What do they use to transport grains? The water bodies. And this is transported centered on structured market arrangement. In 1828, two merchants decided that the way they buy produce from farmers in a corner in Chicago, that it was not the right thing to do. So they need to put an arrangement, which today has become structured market or futures. Two merchants, not government. Not anything. And today that thing is Chicago Board of Trade. It's the largest trading thing. Why? Basic structures arrangement. That let me know that if I have maize and I want to sell it in November, I'll get 100 cedis. But if I want to sell it in January, I'll get 150 cedis. So I engage into a contract and I go to produce. And that is what has driven agriculture transformation. In Ghana, we don't have this. So what's the way forward? I have two proposals. One is that we need to change the environment, or we need to change the fundamentals. And so unfortunately, we cannot present it. But I have a proposal that says we need to enhance capacity of the producers by providing knowledge, information, and technology kits. If I couple that with a structured market arrangement, I become competitive. It doesn't matter the commodity I produce, whether it is oil, whether it is grain, whether it is beef, whether it is duckling. One, I can have capacity to ensure that I can enhance my productivity and get into a structured market arrangement. I'm done. Then the second proposal I have is on how do we make this a business? Because if agriculture stops to become a business, it then becomes subsistence. We know what it means. I grow what I eat. So when I hear people talk about food security and food self-sufficiency, then it means we are going as a nation on subsistence farming. We grow what we can eat. And that cannot be attractive for the young people. It can't be attractive for anyone. But the moment we change that to make business, I met somebody whose father took him to the northern part of Brazil when he was 11 years. Today, he spent 33 years there, and he runs the farm. What is he doing now? On his 5,000 hectares, he produces soybean seeds for 250,000 hectares and maize seed for 500,000 hectares on an annual basis. He's made money. His father has made money. They went there when it was a village. It was intentional that the Brazilian government supported these farmers. And today, in 1970, Brazil was taking food aid. India was on a ration in the 1950s. You couldn't eat more than 2 meals. It was by law. Okay? But today, Brazil is the fifth largest, India is the fifth largest economy driven by agriculture. The largest manufacturer of tractors. The first tractors they saw was in 1960. What did they do different? These 5 elements. If you go everywhere, that has transformed agriculture. Now, today in Ghana, we don't have land to do agriculture. If so, it's a lie. Like Kwame said, Senior Boat will attest to me. If you go anywhere in the country, we are farming among trees. So government upon government bring tractors. They don't last 5 years. If you go around, most second-hand tractors were done in the 70s. So you ask yourself, why are tractors that are today 50 years old, right, coming to Ghana as second-hand tractors to work? And the new tractors government bring, we don't last 5 years. We need an environment that we can take a decisive decision on developing lands for agriculture. Nkrumah was the one who did it. I got my first tractor in 1996, a Chinese tractor, Shanghai, brought by the government. I took it to a village in Afram Plains called Kwewe Manfrom. It's a Volta Lake resettlement township that Nkrumah developed 2.5 acres or 1 hectare for each resettlement house. I took the tractor 2 years, the Chinese government support, so they came to inspect the tractors. The whole country, my tractor was marked the best maintained tractor. Meanwhile, I didn't do anything. What was the difference? I was only using the tractor in lands that have been developed for agriculture. All the other places, because the lands have not been developed, if you go the back, which is the heart of the tractor, the 3-point linkage, all is gone. So it's important we look at land reform that makes us develop land for agriculture, not only the tenure. If you talk about the tenure, you've missed the point. We need to do as a country is stop importing everything machinery for agriculture and start doing something about it. Okay? Basically today, if I walk to India, I can get an engine for tractor. That same engine John Deere is using, or Mr. Ferguson is doing. Anybody can in India today sell you that as a component. I can get an axle, I can get a transmission, and start assembling tractor today. I can do the same for a plow, for a harrow. It's just components. And if we are able to do that, we will definitely be able to do something. So the second thing we need to do as a country is start thinking about component assembly. We don't need to manufacture anything. We just need to buy the pieces and put it together. The third thing is energy. Energy has become very important for the global case, not only because of what we need it for, but because it drives cost. Energy is a cost driver. So for us to be competitive, like Brazil did, they decided, well, I'm not going to depend mainly on fossil fuel. I'm going to grow some of my energy. In the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture that I used to work, government had something they call environmental farm plan. You know, the white guys, they are smart when it comes to these things. All what it meant was that government was going to do some investment that will put money in your pocket. So they say, manage the waste from your farm. Government will give you support to do that. What were people doing? Biogas, solar lamps, solar cells on their buildings, on their warehouses, and they sell the energy into the grid. Smart policy. Energy farming has become something very important. And I think Ghana's energy balance, we should do that. Good solar panels. I can't mention his name. In Yape, I have a neighbor farmer who has solar panels on his farm. He sells his solar during the day. You know that place, the sun, when it comes out, I tell you, you can't come out. You have to go and hide somewhere. So he's using that to generate electricity and sell into the national grid. And he runs his irrigation system center pivots on the national grid. But because it's not running 24 hours or 12 hours, and the solar is doing, every month he's netting some money from the solar. But in this country, most center pivots cannot run because of the energy cost. So he has coming some solar energy and using that to balance it. Yesterday, I set up at 4:30 a.m. to come to Accra to go to Joy FM at 3:30. 527 kilometers. When I got here, the program has closed. You know why? The road. When we got to, they call that place Babatokuma, articulator truck had fallen and crossed the single lane. There was nowhere. Unfortunately, I have a very rugged track. So I had to find my way through people's houses to bypass it before I could come back on the road. It's important as a country we make conscious efforts at our transportation network. The privilege to do a 7-hour drive from Punjab in the northern part of India. I'm a very inquisitive person. So anything I see of interest or I hear of interest, I want to travel and see. So in India, there's a river, the Ganj River, that flows from the Pakistan hills, and they direct this for irrigation all across to Agra. Like if you take Ghana, it's maybe from Paga to Suhum. So I took a drive, 7 hours drive, over almost 1,200 kilometers, 7 hours, 500 kilometers. It took me that. That talks about competitiveness. Transportation is the #1 driver of food inflation in Ghana. Not the food cost itself, but how much it costs us to transport a bag of maize from Tumu. Tumu is one of the areas where you can't find aflatoxin. When I test the maize I grow in Tumu, I've never gone beyond 2 parts per billion. One time, the maize I grow in Ejura, I went as high as 500 parts per billion. You can't use it for anything. But the road network in Tumu is the worst I've seen in my life. Tumu, I tell you. So it's important if we really want this agri to drive our economy, we should be able to do that. And finally, we need to have public-private accountability for what we say we want to do in agriculture. Why am I saying so? Governments from Nkrumah's time up to today have paid too much lip service to agriculture. Too much lip service. And I think it's time the private sector begins to act and not rely on government. Before I land, let me say the private sector in agriculture today, unfortunately, is not like the private sector in pharmaceuticals or even in radio broadcast. The private sector in agriculture today is very weak. We don't have the muscle to do any meaningful investment. So it's important the private sector takes it to the government, to the public sector, to engage, rather than sit back and criticize what government has been doing. So we need to turn around the corner. We need to, as practitioners in agriculture, we need to turn around the corner and begin to engage government on a more constructive base that we can hold ourselves. I was part of the team that developed the Zambian transformation he talked about, where this public-private accountability is a contract between the producers, the aggregators, transporters, and the government. We call it sector production agreement. And we hold each of us accountable. In Zambia, government says, I want to support with 600 tractors. It says, put it in the agreement. Let us all sign. Once we hold each other accountable, then we can see some drive. Thank you.
Wow. I think we should just call the chair to give closing remarks so we go home, because I don't see why we should even do a panel discussion, honestly, because, you know, in a very strange way, we've been able to glean various issues from the five of you. And I think they deserve a round of applause, all five of them, plus the main speaker. So this is our Ɔdadeɛ National Dialogue 2.0 coming to you from EcoBank. My name is Bernard Avile. We just heard from Henry Enim Somoa. Ɔdadeɛ, someone was asking me what year he finished. You know, he finished in 84, after the 83 drought. So it has cleared all his, like, when you write O-levels in hunger, you are very clear how you... So he was doing national service. There was no food in Ghana. So he doesn't have time for long things, you know. No, but Charlie, you'll be champion. Hey, you there for... Too much. So I won't even do a panel. I'm going to invite the 5 people to come and sit down, the 6 of you. I'm going to ask you to just ask them questions, because imagine there are 6 of you. Even if I ask you one question, you can speak for 5 minutes. The way you behave, you won't even keep time. So we'll do another 30 minutes. And we are supposed to be on air till 8:30. So we don't even have time. On channel 1, we are even off TV. We are now on YouTube. Because some of you interpreted 5 minutes for 15 minutes. And I was watching you as you were doing that. You know, so, but I think this is great. So let's invite our keynote speaker to come back up stage, and then our other panelists, Professor, and Doc, and then our beacon, and then our Greek engineer. I really don't think I want to delve into a panel, because this is like multivariate, too many people, too many things going on here. Luckily, our final speaker gave us a framework. I think it was a really nice framework he gave us. He gave us the 5 things we should focus on. And then he also did he said you would do 2 recommendations, but I did like 4 recommendations. But it was beautiful. So the 5 was coordinated research, credit for agric using non-bank financial institutions, extension services driven by research and finance, organized farming structures. And then you said something about coordinated structured market or something, future something, very wild thing, beautiful stuff. So this is what I'm going to do. Is there anybody on the panel who wanted to say something you didn't say when you came to stand here? That's the first question. Maybe there's something you wanted to say, like you needed apport. It's like we finished there, somebody said you need to say something. Or something somebody said reminded you of something you should have said. Or something you said, you realize that you shouldn't have said it at all. So you want to say, Charlie, I mean, I'm Mechanization. So I want to give the opportunity. But because, James, but you spoke first, and you've had these 5 wonderful discussants, I just want you to just sort of give me your, pass the same, sort of any other reflections, having had these 5 nice speakers.
Okay. Just a brief reflection. I mean, bearing in mind how limited we are on time. When Henry mentioned the special vehicle we need for financing, it just struck me that I was in another dialogue somewhere. I'm sure probably Bernard, you were there. A former president was in attendance, and so he started putting questions. Started calling bank CEOs and said, how much are you lending out of your loan portfolio into a Greek? And generally, the figure was 3%. So he said, what about hospitality industry? And everybody said 30%. Okay, I mean, it just tells you how nervous banks are generally to go into agricultural credit. And I say this in response to what Henry said, that until we have a special vehicle to deal with agricultural funding and financing, we're going nowhere.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Put your hands together for him. Something else I had, I wanted a comment on. You said we are like a human being with our brain outside our body. When you said the research for agric is sitting outside, that was quite profound. Because I heard Professor Roger Canton say the exact same thing a month ago at a forum we did, where he says he didn't understand why CSIR should be under Ministry of Environment. If you are doing research for agric and you are sitting in a different ministry, I think you compared notes, right? I wanted to ask Dr. Asiedu, your thoughts on, because he led with research, right? And I thought that was quite profound because he's not a researcher, are you? But he started the discussion on agric from a research angle. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, actually, research really is critical. I mean, if we want to achieve the targets that we have. Yeah. And also the research planning, and then the result monitoring,
Yeah.
Reviews, and output measuring, outcome measuring, etc. But I think Kwame Nkrumah had a very good vision. A very, very, very good vision in establishing the CSIR. But we have not been able to live to his dream. He established the CSIR as an agricultural-led institution. And there are 13 institutions which are complementary to support agriculture. I think about 6 of them are agriculture.
Yeah.
We have the Crop Research Institute, which has now broken down into, the Savannah Agricultural Research Institute, which used to be part of Crop Research Institute, to take care of the Savannah. We have the Oil Palm Research Institute. We have the Soil Research Institute. We have the Food Research Institute. They're all there to make sure that we tackle agriculture holistically. And we have what we call Institute of Technological Information, that we can package agricultural information for the extension officers or for the farmers. Then we have STEPRI. STEPRI is Science and Technology Policy Research, that we have to analyze our research and come out with the shortfalls and advise policymakers how to improve upon research to support agriculture. So about half of the institutions are agricultural based.
Already.
Even the others that are not agricultural based, the Building and Road Research Institute, we're talking about roads,
right.
the feeder roads, etc., was meant for that. Then we have Industrial Research Institute to handle the industrial aspect. So his vision was, on agricultural-led economic development.
So do you agree with him that these institutions should be under agric and not under environment, science, and technology?
In fact, there are sectors, there are about 6 institutions that should move to the Ministry of Agriculture.
Wonderful.
And if we should go by the vision of Kwame Nkrumah, I would recommend that all is moved there, because they all complement agricultural development.
Let's put our hands together for that. So we've managed to clear recommendation. CSIR needs to be under agric, at least 6 of them. Both of you have agreed. Just wanted a quick comment from Prof. Anything cross-cutting you heard, anything that tickled your fancy you want to comment on, Professor?
Thank you. I mean, the issue of CSR vis-a-vis with the universities is complex. I mean, CSR is under Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology. The University School of Agriculture is under Ministry of Education. Okay. So, and we hardly talk. We virtually compete. Yeah. For me, like Henry said, Brampa, we should set up a unit that is independent and works with every ministry. CSR working for agriculture will not solve the road issue, will not solve the energy issues, will not solve the trade issue. But if it's an autonomous institution that cuts across all the sectors, then I think we're making a headway.
Wonderful. Let me just take a comment from our agribusiness and farming person. Anything to say? By the way, did the bank give you money for your business? Because we're told that the banks are not designed to lend to farms and agribusinesses. Did you take any credit? Was it from a bank or from a non-bank? No. Or from your family?
From our personal...
so your personal... So you haven't approached a financial institution for money?
Yeah, now there are some programs going out for agribusinesses that supporting agribusinesses, giving loans with low interest.
So that's where you get money from?
No, from the sales from our produce.
From the sales from your produce. Amazing stuff. Let me end with a mechanized guy. So I think the example Somoa gave about his tractor was so profound, that we are farming among trees and our tractors are just breaking down. Now, you spoke about the importance of agric mechanization. Anything to say about what he said? And is it true that if our tractors are to, or our mechanization is supposed to work, the type of farmlands we have is actually the issue. The analogy about a driver who's a good driver on a bad road, I thought it was quite interesting. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, good. What it means also financially is that if you are able to get a loan to buy a tractor, or you're doing a high purchase and things like that, because of the frequent breakdowns, you will not be able to service your loans. And therefore, they'll come and say, and also one dangerous thing is that when a tractor breaks down during the farming season, agric is in such a way that you can do it next season, and next season might be next year. When you are plowing and it goes off, you cannot it's not like construction where you say, okay, you get if you don't do it within the season, next season, if you try to do it within the season, you lose money too. So we must make sure that our lands are prepared for agricultural use. Wonderful. It's very important.
Let me open the floor. There's a question on my mind. Is finance the cause or effect of the kind of agric we have? Is it money we need for agric to get better, or must agric get better before it attracts the right kind of money? I'm trying to tempt some of the bankers, because I see a couple of Ɔdadeɛs here. Tara Square, you are the executive director, head of consumer banking, and thank you for hosting us, Tara. Let's ask for Tara. They gave us this room, and they've given it to us for free for 2 times. It appears traditional banks are not necessarily meant to finance agric in the way it is done here. He's saying we need non-banks and special vehicles. The effort I see in Ghana is something they call GERSAL. The Ghana something risk sharing, something agricultural lending, something. Is that helping, or are they right? If we want financing for agric in terms of the production, it's not a traditional bank we need. I'm putting Tara on the spot. If he says anything wrong, Frank Edu will catch him, because Frank is. So whatever you are saying, make sure you know that he's sitting next to you. So you go ahead and say it.
Okay. I wasn't prepared for this, but listen up. Agric is a business, and I think one of the speakers mentioned it, right? And I think my brother here said, let's not look at agric as a poverty reduction. There's a lot of money in agric. If you do it right, you shouldn't be afraid of a facility. But the facility must be priced right, must be structured right. Okay. Actually, it is easier to give loans to agric than to real estate. Okay. What's the cycle for sales in real estate? But people take loans and go into real estate and then get into trouble. The problem with agric, in my view, from my limited knowledge, is that we don't put enough science and investment into agric. There's predictability when it comes to lending. Somebody needs to be able to measure your ability to pay. One of the weakest points in agric today, in my view, is lack of predictability. But there are bodies like GIZ and other international bodies and banks across the world that are investing into predictability. What is the quality of the soil? What is the forecast for rain? What is irrigation? All these things help you to be able to predict yield. And once you can predict yield, you can give a facility. Now, the next thing is pricing. Today, lending rates are dropping. The minute government begins to borrow at 10, 11, today T-bills are sitting about 10 point something, then it means that lending rates are coming down. So for me, I don't think it's an issue of, we've had special purpose banks. We've had ADB. But I can tell you that EcoBank probably does more. In fact, not probably. I can say with every confidence that we do more in agric than that special vehicle bank. We partner with international banks that are specialized in agric. We have an agric person specifically whose main job is to help us to drive the agric value chain. So there's a lot of money that goes into agric. The problem for me is all the things that have been said here. Are we large enough? Are we building at scale? Are we putting enough science behind it? If we can put these two together, I think there's no fear about facilities, because they will be priced right, they will be structured right, the yield will be there, and we'll build well.
Wonderful.
That's my answer.
Thank you, Tara Square. The floor is still open on the finance. If there's anything on the finance, then I move to another thing. So it's sort of thematic. Is there any point on the finance? All right, so the gentleman at the back. Just tell us who you are and then. Oh, all right.
So, my name is Timothy Alabi. I'm the Agri-Sector Manager for EcoBank Ghana.
Wonderful.
And I would say that, yes, there are programs that give you low interest rates for agri.
Yeah.
Because at EcoBank, we realize the need to have those low interest rates. So, I mean, financing shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
We have interest rates that are low at 7%.
Yeah.
For agribusiness. So, if you are interested, just see me after the program. I'm on Ɔdadeɛ 93.
Oh, wonderful.
Thank you.
And Tara is Ɔdadeɛ 91 O level and then 93 A level as well. So you are at them on the matter. Any contrary view on the financing bit before I move to something else? Yes, Mr. Soma, where is his mic? Please give back to him.
It's interesting. We should admit a fact that the way our banks are structured and regulated, and where agriculture is today, the banks cannot lift us up to the scale that will give comfort to any bank because of regulation. Okay? For example, credit goes through a certain process in Ghana. I've had a few loan applications that by the time they were approved, I cannot make money. I had to reject.
Oh.
Because of the regulation they have to go through, the due diligence they have to do, and the processes. So, as a country, or let's take any country that has decided to go on that path, don't use banks. Take, for example, in way back 1820, two gentlemen again decided to find a mechanism to finance France agriculture. Today, that has come to a full-blown bank and is one of the largest banks in Europe, Credit Agricole.
Okay.
At the time, just before the First World War, agriculture productivity in France was lower than what is in Ghana today. The problem that agriculture is the largest non-performing loan in Ghana's financial system. It's not because agriculture is bad or not, but where our agriculture is, we can't use
the kind of banks and the way they are regulated.
Yes, the international standards and requirements.
It will not work.
For example, I've applied for a facility from a bank, okay, and I work with a lot of farmers. So in my model, I do the predictability. I assess your soil, I assess the weather, I assess the market before I go in. The bank says, prepare the land. After I prepare the land, I send images because I use GPS. Wow. I send to the bank. The bank says, what is your skin in the game? I tell them my skin in the game. The bank comes with the approval in mid-August.
When did you apply?
I applied somewhere in April.
Wow.
So in mid-August, in Tumu, where is the rain if I continue? So what I have come to understand is that the banks end up compounding the risk when you borrow. Way back in 1933, it was an act of the Senate of the US that for you to lend to agriculture production as a bank, it has to be in sync with the production cycle.
Wow.
So in that space, agriculture credit goes to producer cooperatives, and the recovery rate is in the 90s.
So it's the design of the system.
It's the design of the system, and especially on the bank's understanding of how to structure the facility.
Charlie, you did for
most of the time, they structure the facility such that you can make money with it.
Okay. Mr. Boateng, you want to add in comment?
Yes, very briefly.
Yes.
You want to bring it home?
Yes, please.
All sorts of credit available, MasterCard Foundation, all sorts of credit. When you delve in, credit is driven through the banks to farmers like us. But for whatever reason, there's so much, for want of a better word, I'll say bureaucracy or whatever, time wasting. In farming, the seasons will not wait for you. Just as he's saying. And I have an example of a colleague farmer in Wenchi who said he was pursuing a MasterCard foundation at a specialized credit interest of about 7 or 9%. 7%. The bank in question kept asking for everything, including his marital certificate. Okay? So he said, this kind of delay tactics, just get out. He didn't get a loan anyway.
Yeah.
So we still are convinced that banks are nervous when it comes to agriculture. But like he said, if specialized funding or financing go to specialized agricultural establishments, the banks create strong agricultural desks and do proper diligence. Take it along the value chain like another holistic approach. How much is the farmer's knowledge? What is the land? And what are the guarantees to guard against failure and all of that? I think the banks will feel much more comfortable.
Wonderful.
But today, even when the funding primarily is coming from MasterCard Foundation, it's almost impossible to get it. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Put your hands together for him. Like to take. No, I think we can move on. Look, both points can coexist without it becoming a debate. So let's move away into something else beyond the finance. Tara. So, is there any other issue? If you can go to the. Okay, oh Lord. Okay, let's go to the back. Can you give the mic to the man at the way back? Where are you? Please rise at the back. Yes. Yes, give the mic to him. And then there's one here. You were my Greek prefect when I was in pre-sec, so maybe you have something to say. And then we used to eat eggs from the. Yeah. The Mrs. Champ on the Greek. Yeah. And I didn't narrow this guy.
Yaokuram. Ɔdadeɛ 94-96.
Yeah.
And I'm a Greek logistics practitioner and a farmer. I'm a poultry farmer too.
Yes, sir.
The problem I see is rather with infrastructure.
Okay.
The way we structure, I've been an aggregator. I used to work for the biggest aggregator in the country. I've been importing fertilizer for Ministry of Agric, Ghana Cocoa Board. I've done all from farm gates to the port. And it's infrastructure. For instance, in 2013, I aggregated 70,000 tons of maize in this country. And I had to fill up all the warehouses in Tamale, all the warehouses, Ghana Cotton, Winco warehouses in Tumu, Winco warehouse, Ghana Cotton in Pusu Namango, Tema, B5+ warehouses everywhere. And it was just a nightmare. Even getting trucks to move maize was a nightmare. And then it adds to the cost. So then your break-even point goes so high that you come to the market, you're not getting anything, even though you've been productive. And because you have a glut now, the prices also come down. If you have, say, badges like Dr. Sumwa talked about, you don't put your grain in a sack. Meanwhile, just by putting maize in a sack, you add cost to it. The laborer who carries it takes you 1 cedi. The one who offloads it takes you 1 cedi. Another who carries it takes you 1 cedi. And then the cost of the sack. Then you have to get somebody to be cutting it. And they're showing of just the one sack. So by the time you turn your head, the sack has added about 10 cedis or more to your, for nothing. So if you are doing 1,000 hectares, and you are doing 30 bags per acre, and you have to go through all this, just that alone, the bank will run away from you. Because if they calculate those things, and then you are doing fertilizer 3 bags per acre, you are bringing the same bag from Tema. When your vessel docks, somebody has to be sewing the sacks, bagging in Tema and sewing. And then they charge you the same thing. It goes onto the truck, first warehouse, second warehouse, third warehouse, demurrage, and everything. If you were doing bulk, the vessel comes in, they put it in a hopper, everything goes off in 2-3 days. You get a discharge payment instead of demurrage. The shipping line will pay you if you discharge quickly. And so your cost starts coming down.
Yeah.
The 1,000 hectare farmer doesn't need the sacks. He brings bulk trucks, picks the fertilizer, puts it in his fertilizer spreader. He cuts off all the one bag, one CD,
Okay.
one CD.
Okay.
And then he spreads his fertilizer. And
Okay. So if I hear you right, you're saying the problem is infrastructure. And the answer is scale. That if you are of a larger scale, you can lower your cost.
The infrastructure will let you go increase the scale. If you have a trade, for instance, and you are doing bulk, you can offload a vessel in 3 days. A 20,000 ton fertilizer vessel, you can offload it in 3 days. Because the train carries about 500 carts and then it goes. Meanwhile, you are looking for 500 articulators to go to Tumu. You won't even get some.
So infrastructure for you is the key point.
It's the key.
We take note of that. Thank you. Let me come back here. Yes. I need to come and get this mic so that we can have two. Now we have only one mic. Give it to the gentleman. Yeah, take this extra one.
My name is Yaya Fasubero, Ɔdadeɛ 93. I was going to say something different, but I think I'll dovetail on what he said. So I'm with a company called River Transport and Trading, and the last 8 years we've been looking at using inland water transport as a way of moving agricultural produce from the north to the south. And we realized that if you look at road transport and the cost per ton, as opposed to inland water transport, the same price per ton, it's just a fraction of the cost. So I totally agree. And that doesn't even have to go with a bulk or someone on a large scale. I mean, when you go to Akatem, for example, they're using canoes to bring from Afram Plains. Meanwhile, somewhere around Tumu, northern part of it, they can use the water, 420 kilometers. Anyway, the main thing I wanted to ask, our motto says, in the light we shall see light. You shed so much light on the problems of agriculture in Ghana, but it seems like I'm a bit in the dark. Because when you talk to people who are manufacturing, the agribusiness, like HPW, Blue Sky, they tell you Ghana is not supplying enough fruits. Yeah. So they go to other countries. And here we are hearing people saying that they have 40%, 20% of their mangoes getting rotten. So
what's the missing link?
There is a bit of disconnect for me. Yeah. Is it because we are producing so much, but the quality is so bad that we can't get people to use? But the question that I have, if that's the case, and then today we're saying that most of our diseases are metabolic diseases, so which means are we producing things that are not good enough for us to consume here?
Wonderful.
And, so anyway, I wouldn't take too
much. So that's a
of
great question.
time.
Mr. Boateng will take note of that and answer it appropriately in relation to that disconnect. Any more thoughts from this side? All right, so let's move. Okay, let me come here. Come to the middle. Raise your hand, yes. He was the agri. Were you agri prefect? Yes. No, this guy in front of you. Yeah. 97.
Right. So my name is Dennis Egan, and I'm an agri-economist.
Yes.
A few points. The issue of coordination is critical. I think it has been mentioned. And we have a lot of good institutions with the orientation to do everything we need here. But the issue is about coordination. The universities are researching. CSR is doing the same research. Private entities are doing research. But it's a coordination. So, the coordination also goes into policy and project implementations. Yeah. You have so many organizations in the country almost duplicating the same thing. Yeah. And just rename it, just changing adjectives. And they'll just repeat the same thing.
So we need coordination.
So the coordination is very key in research and in policy development and projects.
Okay.
So that, the little resources we have don't just get wasted. Sometimes the report we get is just a duplication of somebody's report. Because the programs and projects are implemented in the same zone, using the same offices. So they just go and copy somebody's report and give it to you.
Go to the second point.
So the issue is also of the issue on the CSIR moving to agric. I also don't support the idea.
Okay.
CSIR has a bigger objective.
Okay.
If we need, it's also an issue of the coordination. If CSIR has an agric desk and an officer there, and Ministry of Agri has an officer, we can have that system where all these institutions can have a center where they can meet and discuss their programs.
Thank you.
One thing I also see with the agriculture sector is attitude. All the problems we are discussing is attitude.
All right.
Because people are building kingdoms in where they occupy, where they work. And they don't want to let little resources go away. So they will do everything to frustrate you just to protect what they are earning.
Okay.
And it's also, I mean, it goes all over.
Thank you.
So once we solve the attitude problem,
yeah,
I think we can.
Because a lot of people want to talk. Let's keep it brief. The man behind, just give the man behind you. He's wearing black. Give it to him. I'm moving this way. Yeah.
All right. So my name is Freeman. Ɔdadeɛ 2009.
Yeah.
So I have two quick questions. I heard from the presentation that food inflation drives overall inflation.
Yes.
That means that once you have bulk supply of food, inflation drops. As a farmer, how do you marry the quest for inflation to be low and then you making profit? Because you benchmark or project, like you said, 1,200 cedis for a bag of maize. And then prices are low, and then you are selling at 500, which you might run at a loss. So as a country and as a farmer, where do you find the middle ground? Second question, I like the panelists to share some of the institutional support they got. As okay, for Mr. Boateng, I mean, he was in the corporate world, he's made his money, so I'm sure he has some. But as an entry-level graduate or someone burning with a passion for agriculture, where do you start from? Access to land. I have a lot of arable land, but you can't just go to Chopoli and start farming, right? Even though the land is bare. How do you get the source of fund? Where do you start from?
Great question.
Yes, if you don't have the resources. Okay. That's my question.
So what I want to do is I want to take questions so that we can manage the time, right? So I have a standing question from you. I have two questions from you. So if what you have is a question, let me know. So stay on that lane. Stay on that lane. Yes, give it to them. Question. Yes, sir.
Francis Ofozikobia is my name. I do building construction and I want to do a Greek. I have one quick request. Looking at the insight we've gotten from them, I want to ask the organizers, can we do it 6 hours so that we give each presenter 1 hour instead of this 15 minutes another time? My second question is that, how can we do a transfer of knowledge? Looking at the presenters, I think our only madam will be less than 40 years. All of them are above 40. And look at the knowledge they have. So I'm asking myself, the youth in Ghana, those who are less than 30, do we have knowledge like this? And if we grow like them, can we have this knowledge? So how can they transfer their knowledge to them? And finally, they have given us so much suggestion. One is land credit, one is making aggregate business. All these beautiful suggestions, who is going to do? Is the Ghana government for the 4 years? Okay. Or those of us sitting here? Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on. So we're trying to calibrate the question so we can know how to address them. There's a question on disconnect in the issue of fruit gets missing, yet we are not producing enough. That kind of dichotomy question. Then the inflation question as well. And then the institutional support to start farming and land issues. Then knowledge transfer, young people question. So please be thinking about who's going to answer. Right? Thank you. So you go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Ɔdadeɛ 80. Right. And I have a very simple issue that be for the CSR to throw light on. And my issue is about lean seasons. You know, with this yearly ritual, we are going to Burkina Faso to go and buy tomatoes, to here to go and buy water and so on. So with regard to research, I will humbly request if you can throw light on effort you've made to research varieties that would deal with lean seasons. What I've come across is that most of the issues and most of the crops are grown in greenhouses, but I'm talking about open fields, especially with regard to vegetables. So if you can throw light on the research work we have done on those issues.
Thank you. So that goes straight to
CSIR.
CSIR. So let's take some answers. I think we've had enough questions. Is there any student with a question? Is there any student? By the way, are you a Greek science students? All right. Yes, sir. Let's take your question.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. So my question is, how do we change the mindset of the youth about how agriculture is? Because right now, as it stands, we see agriculture as a punishment, maybe to go and work in the farm whilst we are supposed to sit in class. So how do we change this mindset and start to see agriculture as a business that drives the economy? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Put your hands together for him. So I'm going to let the beacon address that question plus the question on the youth. So I'll start with you, then I'll work my way. Inflation question I'll give to a Greek economist, and then the dichotomy question I'll spread it around. So let me start with Madam. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think I'll start with the students and then move to the man. My guy, as you are seeing us here, are you not so happy about it? Are you not impressed with agriculture? Yes, because that mindset has to be moved out. If you add business to agriculture, you see that agric is profitable. And you have that mindset, as the speaker was speaking, that for punishment, that's what, if that mindset, you have to take it out and then see it as business. At my side, the question the man asked, that how do we share knowledge with others for them to see? My side, we are open for people to come for training.
Okay.
We have students coming from even from the GSS and then Ohawu Agri College, who comes there most of the time to do industrial attachment, to gain knowledge so that they will pass it on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's stay here. Agric economics, inflation question.
Yeah, thank you. So with the inflation, the food inflation, the prices are taken at the market. So the maize is produced at the farm, it's transported, it gets to the market. Okay, so if the transportation cost is always high, given, what determines that inflation is the price of the commodity on the farm. Right, we are assuming that transportation cost is expensive, so given, so that is where the price of the maize on the farm now determines the inflation. But certainly, the price is made up of the farm gate price plus the transportation to the farm. It's even include whoever is even going to purchase it, because when they go around collecting the price, they ask you, how much are you paying for this? So their price, their cost built into the final product on the market, and that is where the challenge is. So the infrastructure is key.
Thank you.
To reduce it.
CSIR, Dr. Asa, the question was direct to you.
Yeah, I think there are a number of issues that needs CSIR attention. I've captured a lot here. One is research coordination. We have also institutional support that is also there.
No, there was a direct question to you from him about there's a lean season.
Okay.
And what does your research say about how to grow vegetables in the lean season so you wouldn't have to import tomatoes from, say, Burkina Faso? So do you have any research that would tell us how to grow? Yeah, that's the direct question to you.
Okay, the lean season is cyclic. Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. It happens every year. Around this time, let's make it from April, May, June, get into July, it's called the lean season. It's lean season because food is not available. And that is also a driver of the food inflation. And the reason is that most of our production is about one cycle. The north is one cycle. We were in the north almost half a year. There's nothing happening. After one season, after harvesting and after processing, etc., storage, from, let's say, December to about June, July, there's no food because it's one season. So definitely that will happen unless productivity goes up, and the productivity and storage, and also multiple cropping. And that's why we've been insisting on irrigation. And I made mention of the example of Mali. Mali is drier than northern region here. It's a Sahel country. In fact, some of the Sahel countries, like Senegal, they also have a very large-scale irrigation. where we had a Central Africa Rice Center where I stayed at St. Louis on the border of Mauritania. The rainfall is 2 months. And within 2 months, it rains 200 millimeters for the year, finished. Senegal produces rice about 3 cycles there. They are self-sufficient in tomato production over there. You go there, trucks are carrying it to the factories for processing. They are self-sufficient in onions in Senegal. They are self-sufficient in sugar. They use the Senegal River to irrigate all these things. There's no rain. I mean, you go there, 10 months, you haven't seen a drop of rain.
So it's irrigation.
Irrigation is very important, and modernization of agriculture and agricultural productivity.
Wonderful.
And also productivity now, because of the climate change and the bound of risk and bank risk and etc., the emphasis on the research institutions is to develop, we call 2 things, adaptation, our technology developments for adaptation and mitigation. They should be adapted, and the varieties that are coming out, you can get about heat-tolerant varieties because, some areas heat is going up. And when heat is up, pollination is affected. For example, wheat. We have wheat-tolerant, I'm moving from a little bit, but we promoting wheat-tolerant varieties. Now coming to Ghana, Professor is going to wheat. We are supporting them. Heat-tolerant varieties. Now Canada, it's no more Canada when it's cold. It's coming here.
Okay.
So we have drought-tolerant, varieties.
So we have the varieties that can withstand
and then
this.
Management, soil management, soil water management for soil to retain. And also we are encouraging lowland production where water can be managed. Rice, for example, most farmers in most of African countries are going to the inland valley production.
Yeah.
Because that's where you are guaranteed of getting water, and you can do about 2 cycles or 3 cycles.
So the research is there.
Research is bringing productivity and production, and also the irrigation for the cycles.
Great.
Then we can reduce this, the annual ritual of, lean season is coming. It affects also industries. Industries are not able to get raw materials.
All right.
And
Thank you. Thank you. Not to cut you. We have to go at 9. So I want to take his answer to the question on what was your question, Seth? Mango something.
Yes.
your mango question, yes.
Because of where you are sitting, I prefer to stand. Yes. My brother, what drives demand, and especially for mangoes and fruits, is quality. So it is the biological issues. Biological simply means disease and pest and all that. So if you have the quality, it will be bought. Okay? However, assuming that your quality is still the best, there's no guarantee that all your mangoes will be bought in this country. And the reason is that the local consumption is less than the capacity which is available. So we will always have a surplus at this point in time. We will always have a surplus because the capacity is just too small. And that is why you have the Blue Skies and the HPWs going to other countries to pick fruits first, because those fruits are cheaper. And from the other presentations, you heard that they are cheaper because they do things better in those countries. Government makes an investment. Mass spraying, you use a knapsack, but in those countries, you have aircraft doing area spraying. So their cost of operation is lower. Now, mangoes coming in from Burkina Faso, for instance, can land in Blue Skies at 25 US cents per kilo. Mangoes coming from my farm is bought at around 40 cents. So they will always go there. However, the opportunity is in exports. The export people are looking for quality fruits because of what is happening in Latin America. So the thing is for us to focus on the quality. The unfortunate bit is that to get the quality, you need financing. And our traditional banks, I say again, are nervous.
Thank you. We'll take a comment from him on there was a last question around a young person wants to enter a Greek. How does he get help, land, and that type of thing? The two of you address, and we wrap up. Thank you.
All right. Like I said, there's a need for land reform. Basically, I think if you want to go into agriculture today as a young person, it's difficult. I don't want to lie to you. It's difficult. There's no institutional support anywhere for you. That's the fact. So until we do something about it, agriculture today cannot be attractive for young people. That's a fact. If you want to do the same agriculture today in Burkina Faso, it's different. There's an institutional support for you. You can walk to a cooperative. You can walk to a farmer union and say you want to farm, and you get support. In Ghana, it's not the same. So the fact is that if we don't do something about how we're doing agriculture, it cannot be attractive for young people. That's the fact.
Thank you.
I want to just touch briefly on the inflation issue. Our cost of production is too high. That's the problem. It's not that the price is not good. The food prices in Ghana are high. If you look around the world, we get, for example, like I was saying, if you go to Brazil today, you are buying maize around $200 per metric ton. Ghana, sometimes we get $400 per metric ton for maize, and it's still not good. So that's why we're importing a lot of maize from Brazil. It's not price. Ghana's problem is not price. Ghana's problem is cost of production.
All right. Thank you. Let me leave the last word to Ɔdadeɛ Amoakohene. So closing, just anything, final thoughts to answer any question. Please give him the mic. Then I'll invite the chair to give us a closing remarks, and then we'll sing the school anthem, and we'll live happily ever after. Amen. So let's take your final comment.
Yeah. Okay. For the young person, agric is beautiful. Agric is nice to work in. What everybody has said is that it has to be targeted. We have to intentionally make it work because it's quite expensive. Things like block farming, where you can take a place and clear it up nicely, the proper way, that people can go and have tractor services, and those things help in agric. Maybe even everybody gets, say, 10 acres, small bungalow, or something like that. We have to intentionally make it attractive for the young people to go there. And also, when the people start seeing rich agriculturists, rich farmers, that will also be good for us.
Thank you. Let's dance together for a panel. You can resume your seats. Thank you very much. This is Ɔdadeɛ National Dialogue Conversations under the Baobab tree. Our chair is in the house. She joined us much earlier on. Her opening remarks were read eloquently for her by Ɔdadeɛ Sam-Ado. She's going to give us a closing remarks. Let me just, before I bring her up, acknowledge a few more Ɔdadeɛ's. Honorable Isaf Husseini, former MP. Where are you? Good to see you. Put your hands together for him. Ɔdadeɛ Ninoy Adumwa, former MC for Adentan. Yaya Alpha Suberu, River Transport. You already came. Thank you. Ɔdadeɛ Dr. Opoku Arampoma, former CEO of Kolebu. Where is he? Thank you. Ɔdadeɛ Isaac Sampon, former school prefect. Where are you? Everybody's a former something. But Patricia Obonai is not a former anything. She's the current CEO of Telecel Ghana. She's our chairperson. So please bring us the closing remarks. Let's welcome her with a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard. Good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's been an evening well spent. I'm not surprised at the quality of the delivery this evening. What impresses me most is that these talents made time to join us, and we're very, very grateful for your time. Very, very grateful. Thank you very much. Can we give them a big round of applause? I came here to be challenged because I didn't know so much about agric. I think I've acquired so much knowledge, and many of you will attest to the same. I'm also here to tap into business opportunities. I'm a business person. And whilst we have shared the challenges, all I hear are opportunities. I'm sure there's so much that everybody is taking away. and you tap into the opportunity and become a farmer or do something out of the knowledge that has been shared. If there's nothing you are taking away at all, at least I know I can make $1 million from mangoes. So I'm going to do that. Thank you all very much for coming. And I really want to thank the planning committee. I really acknowledge the work that you have done to bring together all these amazing people. It's been a fantastic evening. And we look forward to another great dialogue under the Baobab tree next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You kept it short and sweet. We'd like to acknowledge the planning committee. Not all of them are here, but if you are here, please rise to acknowledge you. This has been a collective effort of a lot of people. Ɔdadeɛ Reverend Dr. Makwe, he's not here with us. Ɔdadeɛ Sam Ado. Is it 74 or 76? 76, thank you. Ɔdadeɛ Eddie Kofi, he's coordinating affairs from the US. They send WhatsApp message, rough. Fico. Let's put hands together for him. Ɔdadeɛ Isaac Kwe, thank you so much. He will conduct the anthem when we are closing. Dr. Niboy Hammond, 96. Where is he? Dr. Niboy Hammond. Thank you. Oh, you know, clap for him. Ɔdadeɛ Frederick Nayo Abe. Nayo, 2005. Ɔdadeɛ Chris Johnson, 2003. 2004. Leonard Ekufu Kwapong, he's 2005 as well. He's not here. Benjamin Ajay Pipra, who doubles, he's Charlie hardworking. Any work boy, or Charlie day form, or that year do everything. Or that year Albert Nenya Rebuakwa 98, he's not here. Or that year Edward Ekufu Pari, where is he? Thank you. And then Daniel Delali Adanu, thank you. And of course the MC Bernard, who is also a member of the committee. We'd like to thank the patrons who've made this possible. Of course, Global President Dr. Ernest Ofori Sapong, and of course, Dr. Frank Edu for your great support in the background, and the global executives for giving us the go-ahead. This is the second version. We may actually do a third version before the year ends.
Yes, thank you.
So we can do one more?
Yes.
Okay. So all those of you say we should do one more, say aye. Aye. Those who say we shouldn't do, say no. The ayes have it. I'd like to invite Isaac Kwe to lead us. This time the school anthem will be played digitally whilst we sing along to it. But I still need you to conduct in your most animated way. So let's welcome Isaac Kwe. Is there refreshment? So there's some drinks from Specialized at the back. There's also, you can scan the program. What else do you have to advise? Everything is done. Wonderful. So Isaac Kwe, please come and lead us. We'll take the school anthem. And then we also have souvenirs that you can buy. Please go up there. Souvenirs that you can buy. Let's rise. And then we will be out of your way. Thank you.
Happy are we, studios are we, students of Presbyterian Secondary School. Onward we march, we charge along to happy victory, to victory, to victory. Our motto is a solid bulwark walking us along. Illuminate, illuminate, to be the people's movement. In thy light, we shall see light. Illuminate, we can be most human. For Christian nation, to take our places in the future of our country and church. To take our places in the future of our country, happy studios are we. For Christian nation, to take our places in the future of our country and church. To take our places in the future of our country. Happy studios are we.
Thank you. A big thank you to EcoBank for the venue and to Ɔdadeɛ Radio, Channel 1 Television, and Joy News. We'll take a big group photograph, so if you can come up and just take a nice shot of us, and then the speakers and the panel members and the committee with our special guests, if you can just line up, Madam Chair, to take a nice group photograph here up there just for the record. So all the speakers, please come up stage. Madam Chair, please join them. And the... who else is joining the photo? Yes, planning committee members, please come up stage so we take a nice group photograph. There's refreshment outside. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. There will be replays of this on TV and radio. We'll announce it on the
let's go back years ago, and I said I'll give you the speech I rendered at the program. Years ago, all we knew was Legon, even our time.
Yeah.
No other public university had the privilege of, or the opportunity, I should say, of organizing even LLB course. None. In fact, I said it in a very funny way, but I should be forgiven, that the moment you said you were doing law, the first question, so are you at Legon? You couldn't have said that you were in any other university. Then there was the need to decentralize. Then a number of universities were given accreditation and recognition. As we speak, there are over 17 universities, and more are applying.